Very good morning. This presentation is brought to you by Resonate International with a mission to leverage knowledge worldwide. The topic being covered is United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, a call to urgent action for humanity's sake. Ladies and gentlemen, in September 2015, 193 member states of the United Nations adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which outlined 17 interconnected Sustainable Development Goals, generally referred as SDGs, to address global challenges and ensure a better, more equitable future for all. These goals represent a global commitment to ending poverty, reducing inequalities, improving health and education, securing access to clean water and sanitation, adequate housing, and tackling climate change. The declaration of the SDGs is centered around 5 key pillars: people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnerships. Together, these goals form a comprehensive blueprint for tackling the most pressing issues facing humanity today. However, with only 6 years left until the 2030 deadline, significant gaps persist in the implementation of these goals, particularly in regions where suffering is most acute. This requires an urgent recalibration of efforts, prioritizing benchmarks where intervention is most critical, and replicating proven solutions across nations to accelerate the SDGs implementation. Across all 17 goals, the top 5 countries leading in SDG achievement are Finland 86.4, Sweden 85.7, Denmark 85.0, Germany 83.4, and France 82.8 on the scorecard. At the other end of the scale, the countries with the lowest scores are Yemen at 46.9, Somalia 45.4, Chad 45.1, and Central African Republic 44.2, South Sudan 40.1 on the scorecard. For India, though it stands at 109th position in terms of ranking, the overall SDG score is 71 for 2023-24, a significant improvement from 66 in 2020-21 and 57 in 2018, which was the baseline report. While the above overall data needs more careful insight to truly understand the real progress on each benchmark, it is visible that the humanity's most critical and pressing needs of today are not gaining that much attention as they deserve if any meaningful overall progress is to be achieved by 2030. This leaves a big question mark for every nation and for the UNDP, United Nations Development Programme, the agency mandated in 2015 to steer this vital mission for accomplishment by 2030. Considering less time available, prioritization becomes the key for everyone involved. Prioritizing humanity's most pressing needs is important to understand with respect to key benchmarks relevant. First is safe drinking water. SDG 6. Access to clean water is non-negotiable. Currently, 2.2 billion people lack safe drinking water, a situation most acute in sub-Saharan Africa. This leads to widespread disease, malnutrition, and stunted economic growth. A holistic push for infrastructure development, sustainable water management, and technology adoption is essential to address this global crisis. Solutions like Singapore's innovative water recycling technology demonstrate how even water scarce regions can achieve water security. The second is ending hunger, SDG 2. Despite modern advancements, hunger continues to plague nearly 828 million people, particularly in regions like East Africa and South Asia. Brazil's Zero Hunger Program, which integrated social protection with agriculture, is a prime example of how national level interventions can drastically reduce food insecurity. Global collaboration is key to extending this success to regions where malnutrition and food shortages persist. Third is quality healthcare, SDG 3. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed severe health inequalities worldwide, particularly in low-income countries where healthcare systems are fragile. South Korea's proactive pandemic response, underpinned by strong public health infrastructure, serves as a model for building resilient healthcare systems globally. Universal healthcare models like those in Norway and Cuba offer inspiration for creating accessible health systems that leave no one behind. Fourth is quality education, SDG 4. Educational inequality is a global crisis exacerbated by COVID-19 pandemic, which affected 1.6 billion learners worldwide. Countries like Finland and Estonia, which prioritize equitable and inclusive education systems, show that education reforms can narrow the gap. For the global community, the immediate focus should be on investing in digital infrastructure and teacher training, particularly in low-income countries. The fifth is adequate housing, integral to SDG 11, which is sustainable cities and communities. This remains a critical challenge for millions worldwide. In 2015, 25% of world's urban population lived in slums or slum-like conditions. In 2020, 5 years later, this figure stood at 24.2%, hardly any change. By 2022, it grew to 24.8%, that is 1.12 billion people, 130 million more than in 2015. India has made considerable progress on SDG 11.1. The two flagship missions of the Indian government have adequately addressed the goals to build affordable housing units and provide basic sanitation facilities to all across the country. Though still lot needs to be done on this front, the conscious effort is a good example which can accelerate the corrections worldwide if implemented and imbibed by other nations suffering with the same situation. The sixth is climate action, SDG 13. Climate change is the existential crisis of our time. The world is currently on track for a disastrous 3% temperature rise, well above the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal. Costa Rica's carbon neutrality plan is a beacon of hope, demonstrating that nations with limited resources can lead the way in climate responsibility. The challenge lies in holding major emitters like the United States, China, and India accountable through binding commitments and robust enforcement mechanisms. Success stories are many, and what they teach us is important to learn. Let's look at the first, Brazil's Zero Hunger Program, a multi-sectoral approach integrating food security, local governance, and social protection drastically reduced hunger and poverty in Brazil. This initiative offers a powerful model for African and South Asian nations, where similar challenges persist, especially with the backing of UNDP. Second is Costa Rica's climate leadership. Costa Rica's carbon neutrality goal stands as a success story that even developed countries can learn from. By prioritizing renewable energy, the country set a precedent for integrating environmental sustainability into national development plans. Third is Bangladesh water security success. Bangladesh community-led water management programs, which have provided 98% of its population with access to clean drinking water, show how scalable solutions can be effective. Other countries facing water scarcity, such as India and Kenya, could adopt similar models with support from UN agencies and global partnerships. The question arises is, why is UNDP not leading on accountability? The United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, has been instrumental in supporting SDG implementation, yet its role must evolve for the remaining years leading to 2030. UNDP's approach should shift from broad advisories to direct actionable leadership in holding countries accountable. The absence of a quarterly global report on SDG progress is a critical shortfall. Such reports would provide transparency, highlight areas where funding is lacking, and flag nations that are underperforming despite ample resources. By publishing continent and nation-specific progress reports, UNDP can drive greater accountability. Additionally, each country should be required to appoint a dedicated SDG coordinator responsible for national progress. Annual reviews facilitated by UNDP would create a forum for nations to share best practices, identify challenges, and mobilize resources effectively. There exist funding gaps and lack of synergy. The $2.5 trillion annual funding gap for SDG achievement remains a significant barrier. Wealthier nations, global corporations, and multilateral banks must increase contributions to create a dedicated SDG fund. The UNDP can spearhead efforts to channel these funds towards the regions that need them most, while also seeking innovative financing mechanisms such as SDG bonds and public-private partnerships. Thus, mobilizing these funds will ensure that goals like clean water, hunger, eradication, and climate action are accelerated in developing countries. What are the lessons from a decade of SDG implementation? There are several key lessons, and it is important to take a note. First is, action must be prioritized over aspiration. Nations that have made the most progress are those that treated the SDGs as a central part of their national development strategies. Second is, local adaptation matters. Successful initiatives like those in Bangladesh and in Costa Rica were tailored to local contexts. Nations must adapt global goals to fit their unique local challenges. Third lesson is, accountability is non-negotiable. Without transparent tracking systems, SDG progress will continue to be uneven. The global community must demand more frequent and detailed reports on progress and shortfalls, alongside efforts to address funding gaps. The fourth lesson is, UNDP needs stronger leadership and clearer roles. To realize the SDG targets by 2030, the UNDP must step up as a global coordinator. A more hands-on, assertive approach is required, especially in mobilizing funding and holding nations accountable for their commitments. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, a bold push for global synergy is the need of the hour. The SDGs are not just a global wish list. They are a blueprint for humanity's survival and for its prosperity. With only 6 years left, the world must shift from planning to execution with unwavering commitment. Immediate priorities such as ensuring clean water, eradicating hunger, healthcare, education, and confronting climate change must be fast-tracked. Nations must share responsibility, and UNDP must take a more proactive role in facilitating collaboration, raising funds, and ensuring that each nation appoints an accountable leader for SDG progress. Failure is not an option. Every nation, organization, and citizen has a role to play in achieving these goals. Let everyone everywhere rise to this challenge with determination, synergy, and action to ensure a just, equitable, and sustainable world for all. Only then can we honor the promises made to future generations and save both humanity and the planet from an unsustainable trajectory of today. Good luck, best wishes, and God bless.